Hello all and welcome back to Shatter Our Souls with Novaria. So today, I have a couple things that I would like to get sorted out. First and foremost, there's one more shrine in the west section of the west fort of the Faron Woods itself, and we're going to make our way closer to Lorellan Village directly thereafter, as once we finish that, we're kind of in cleanup mode. Most, if not all, of the more basic shrines will be able to beat without too much excess effort have already been completed. The ones that we are left with are moderate tests of strength, major tests of strength, and a couple oddballs that maybe having the upgraded bombs might help. And a couple other oddball items, such as I need to find Faron, the green dragon, specifically to get a scale for one of the shrines. Other than that, it's pretty well whatever happens kind of situation. It's all positive, it's all been going fairly well so far. Now, as far as everything goes, we're at about, I want to say 90 to 95% of the total shrines that we're going to get. My guesstimation is we're going to be at approximately 100 shrines without the use of weapons. Those oddball extras that we can't get are primarily due to bow usage, or the oddball shrine that was in Kakariko Village that required the use of a a shield and sword to do the training shrine just outside of Kakariko Village. Technically, that is a couple oddballs that don't really fit the everything is possible vibe, but beyond that, all is good. This shrine here is kind of a unique one. The goal of this shrine is to set something made of metal on top of it. And as this is the Faron province, a lot of this area really doesn't have a lot of options for metal-based tools in general. The ones that we do get are one-offs here and there that don't really do much altogether. An example of it would be occasionally we would get a metal treasure chest in the lake, which is why I'm popping my head over here to hopefully get a view of one of them. And if not the metal treasure chests, then I have to find and transport a metal weapon such as a sword from a Skelly Boy, simply so that I have something to activate that shrine with. If I cannot find those, I suppose, that demographic of weapons or tools, then I'm gonna have to pull something similar to the Blue Flame run again, wherein I have to get a metal object from further and further away to said location specifically to open up a singular shrine, and that's really not my ideal. Like, don't get me wrong, I'd be more than happy and more than willing to do it, but it would be one of those things that once it's done, it would be, well, exhausting to do in the first place, and a lot of chit-chat. Now, along with that, the next shrine as well that we're aiming for is the Three Brothers. Now, these two shrines act as kind of like a more overworld-esque challenge, more overall overworld-style gameplay. And this is incredibly intentional for one. Both of them require more exploration of the regions surrounding the respective shrine location to begin with. This one, you can't see the shrine and have very limited means of understanding how to get it out of the dirt, which is, of course, getting a giant rock to get struck by lightning. In and of itself, that's not the end of the world. It's reasonably simple. Anybody could theoretically figure it out. The hard part is just getting the tool you need over there to be able to do it. The Three Brothers, on the other hand, is probably one of the more unique combat shrines out there. See, wherein Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom do have a plethora of combat-based shrines and trials for gaining strength, most of them revolve around you go into a location, you're told this is a minor, major, or moderate test of strength, and you're intended to go in, fight the big bad evil guy inside, and bada bing, bada boom, you're done. In Tears of the Kingdom, they upped this a little bit with the a couple of the shrines that required enemies to be defeated, like the maze shrines at the bottoms. But overall, that's pretty well what sets them apart as far as overall outcome. The combat shrines in Tears of the Kingdom are typically based more heavily on Eventide Island style gameplay, where you get what you get and you kind of got to figure it out from there. The tools that you would ordinarily have access to, you do not currently have access to. And that's fine. Yep. Is that the tail of the dragon? Oh, joy. Okay. Timing-wise, I have to be here. Let's hopefully get this rock to blow up. Come on, get to the top. See what happens. And... okay, cool. I'm at a good... oh. So the... Kokonada Shrine. Perfect. Now that we've actually unlocked the shrine and fast travel, we're gonna rush over to the dragon and see if we can get that scale. Of the three dragons, Ferosh, or Pharaon, depending on which version of it you prescribe to, is by far the hardest to get a hold of in Breath of the Wild. Where Naydra is effectively a mini boss fight, wherein you have to defeat each of the 4 eyeballs on it. Ferosh is very different in terms of output, shall we say. As Ferosh's whole deal is, he has, I believe, 3 separate locations that it can spawn. Lake Hylia, the Gerudo Highlands, and the Faron Woods, which is why I've been kind of just, as I find them, yeah, I would like to get the part or the scale, but it's not an immediate concern. I'd like to get the scale, but it's not an immediate concern, and I did that about 4 separate times here. It's no longer a simple solution of, oh, I can get this later. Because reality is, if I miss this, I'm in a situation where I have to go hunting for Ferosh to get that scale. And I have attempted on about 3 separate occasions to get that scale. So, here's hoping. Bombs away. Too low. Shoot. And... oh, that one hit. Looks like I got something closer to the horn there. Not a huge issue. Oh, yay. Recharged my stamina. So after dropping a scale, regardless of when they do it, each of the dragons ascend to the... what we know as the Sky Islands in Tears of the Kingdom, but it effectively breaches the cloud barrier that is showcased in Skyward Sword. This cloud barrier, for lack of better terminology, remains intact in some capacity well after the defeat of Demise. In fact, it is to a point where I believe it actually lasts indefinitely until Tears of the Kingdom, where the cloud barrier is totally removed. Anywho, Shrine 1 down. The next one I mentioned was the 3 brothers. Now the 3 brothers are each carrying 1 portion, or 1/3 of a key. 3 separate Sheikah orbs that they each carry around their neck. Now, if you are of the mindset of a stealth player, this ends up being actually really easy to defeat them, because you just need to get the orb off of the chain on their neck and run away. But if you're involved in more of a combat situation with them, it becomes a lot harder to hold your own against them. Because each of the three of them are intended to be more combat oriented, more about their self-preservation. And each of the three has more to it than what might be immediately available or understood. I'm going to use the youngest kin as my guinea pig here. The youngest of the three brothers is the red one. Now the red Hinox that you have to steal this from is the weakest. It not only has no helpers surrounding it, but is also just the one that has the least health in general. If you were to pick on any of the three of them and say that's the weakest one, it would be the youngest kin. The second, the middle kin, is sitting in the middle of a bog surrounded by water. And I can't recall if he has enemies surrounding him or not, but I know he has significantly more health than the youngest, but less than the oldest. The oldest kin is sitting on the hill over a bog, surrounded by enemies, and it's very difficult to stealth your way up to him, because the little enemies that are surrounding him are all distractions. They all have a habit of waking him up. Meaning that if you're going to do it, you're going to do it right. Typically, the way I would go about it is you would get yourself a big, heavy-hitting weapon. Think a Royal Guard sword or something. Sneak up behind them, bop each of the individual little guys, and boom, you're done. Run up on top of his chest or find a way to paraglide down to it, and you're good. That's kind of the whole spiel, the whole expectation. I do want to just drop the Thunderstorm Rod, but I don't want it used against me in this already dangerous situation. I'm going to hold on to it, temporarily. And, yeah. Oh, what do we got here? A rusty shield. Nope, don't want that either. Theoretically, if I were to climb the large rib cage that he's sitting in the middle of, I could paraglide down onto his chest, pick up the orb, and run. But I'm also kind of hesitant because the last time I attempted that, I got attacked at all sides by the smaller blue bokoblins. Because of that, the bokoblins are kind of unironically the stronger entity and the more dangerous foe to deal with. Not sure why specifically, but it is what it is. Each of the bokoblins have something that they're interested in some way, shape, or form. Some are interested in more close-range fighting, some are more about doing long-range fighting with lightning arrows. Unfortunately, I'm not smart, and I kind of have to deal with this the old-fashioned way. Oh, yep, hi. So the oldest Hinox, theoretically, because of the location we're fighting in, as long as I get rid of the Bokos, I should be fine. The reason I want to get rid of the Bokos first, and not focus exclusively on the Hinox, is while the Hinox is the most dangerous foe, he's also by far the slowest. So, I can use his... Oh, that's bad. I can use his lack of speed against him and use ruins of a tree or something as a defensive wall. So, effectively, while I'm not fighting him head-on like many people would, I at least have something that can deal damage to him, if only in a long-term capacity. Slow and steady wins the race. At least that's what I've been told. Personally, I don't see it. I think that slow and steady is not the way to go in this circumstance, because the faster you can deal with your opponent, the less likely you're going to make a mistake. Like that one. Anywho, we're going to deal with Cranky here. There we go. And down he goes. Got some nice weapons, some flint, some botw teeth. And yeah. Now, theoretically, there is a secondary option. Now, if you're not interested in a long-winded battle, there other option that I would recommend is going ahead and using an arrow to cut the rope around its neck. Cutting the rope will allow you to, or will make it drop the orb, but it's hard to get that to happen with a standard sword until it reaches about a third to half of its health. So, effectively, just keep pummeling away and hope for the best. All in all, I think the Hynoxes are probably one of the weakest mini-boss type enemies in Breath of the Wild. Because if you look at other entities like the, what are they called? The Lynels? Lynels are far more dangerous. You have the Talus, which have significantly more durability and only one weak point to speak of. Of course, I would say the Hynoxes are by far the weakest, because there's literally nothing that they can do in the wrong environment. Now, Stalnoxes are technically weaker, but Stalnoxes also get to a point where as they continue to throw bits and pieces of themselves, they really run low on bones and defensive mass to hold back against you. So, you know, I suppose all's well that ends well. Anyway, first orb has disappeared. We have 2 more to go. Now, we're going to go for the middle kid next. The middle one, let's take a look-see here. We can just glide down onto the ribcage above him. It doesn't look like there's any enemies from this angle, although that could definitely be a angle problem. Although I do see a bee's nest in the tree to his other side. So maybe we could go about using the bees to our advantage. But once you have the orb, just run away. You can outrun any Hynox without any concern, just because they're slow, they're sluggish. And that's going to be one of the biggest boosts that you can get, is they can't handle actually holding their own against you. Anywho, with the middle kin down, in the least attack-oriented way possible, we have one left. I should also mention that if you... I always have this fear that I'm going to end up losing progress because of a blood moon. So try to start it earlier in the daytime. Think 9 to 10 a.m. Just because going through all 3 of them and then ending up as you're dropping it off to the third, or dropping off your third orb, having everything reset would kind of suck. The youngest has no defenses, no partners, no helpers, but also the most wide open arena. As a result of its arena, it technically has more that it can do to deal damage to you, because you kind of got to get away from it. Ow. But the other side of it is, as the youngest kin, it also can't deal half the amount of damage that the other 2 can. So we're just going to lead him up the hill. He'll eventually give up and turn around, and we'll have beaten the 3 brothers side quest. I'll admit it was a lot harder my first time because I didn't realize that I could stealth my way to go it. But, I mean, you know, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. At least it's more reasonable than perhaps what I initially expected. Excuse me. You see the Hynox too, don't you? Yeah, that's right, you run away. Ugh, stubborn beastie. Anywho. Let's keep running, because I don't want to get caught by him today. And with that, the 3 brothers side quest is officially mission complete, without using any weapons. You know, I initially expected that this challenge was going to be harder. And I think the turning point for it was, unironically, the moment where I said, okay, I'm not dealing with every single enemy anymore. It became more of a, okay, I can do A and B and challenge these guys, but I'm not going to fight every single enemy because fighting every single enemy is exhausting, overwhelming, and just overall very time-consuming. But fighting every once in a while and fighting off more major entities or ones that you don't come across very often is a perfectly fine, reasonable solution. Anyways, with that, we are heading off towards Lorelin Village. Now, Lorelin Village is one of those places that it reminds me of somewhere else, but it's also one of those places that doesn't necessarily... It holds up well, but it doesn't have as much to do with the world as I would like. Lorelin Village, for lack of better terms, is a mock-up of Outset Island that you come across in Zelda Wind Waker. Outset Island is easily one of the best locations in the Wind Waker because it's an island that is actually way larger than virtually any other location in the game. There's more to explore in the overworld there than virtually any other overworld location. But it comes with a caveat. It comes with a problem, because of course it does. Everything does. And that would be that it's one of the areas that doesn't hold much in terms of potential growth rooms, so to speak. Result of that is it's kind of a set it and forget it type of location. The Lorelin Village in Breath of the Wild I found was kind of a meh location. There wasn't anything that really stuck out to me that said this is the location because. And that's really upsetting because it has the design. It reminds me of a location that I enjoyed. But it's not one that I would actively say is a well thought out, well planned out, or even well considered location. Anywho, this shrine is a weighty decision, and honestly, this one's a pretty simplistic one. As far as it goes, just fiddle with a couple of scales and fight a singular guardian scout, and you pretty much have it. Anyways, so we're just gonna beat this guy up with a metal brick, because I'm tired of using bombs for everything, and the odd times I get to use magnesis for its intended uses, even if this is not its intended use, is a blessing when it does happen. Anywho, so our little friend here is getting absolutely mauled by the metal brick. And if I'm honest, I really like magnesis. When I first started playing Zelda Breath of the Wild, magnesis was unironically my favorite way to deal damage to enemies, because it was one of the few ways that was constantly renewable. It wasn't like some games or some weapon types that constantly lose health or don't do enough over time. This weapon type, whether it's gravity or magnesis, generally does a fantastic job at taking out enemies, even if it is a little bit clunky at times. Anywho, our Guardian Scout is officially defeated, and that's pretty much all there is in terms of challenge for this area. You have to do a couple little bit of finagling here and there, but most of the rest of the shrine is just about using those 1, maybe 2 blocks you get throughout the world and say, yeah, okay, cool. Keep going. Have fun. It leaves a lot to be desired in that regard. Anyways, I'm going to take the treasure chest with me because I like treasure chests. And I'm also going to bring the metal box with me because I like metal boxes. I see nothing wrong with doing both of these at once. The first portion of this is pretty clear. Just more or less gain access to different sections of this puzzle, if you will, and reverse it so that you can get elevated. When you're elevated, you have access to new treasure chests and the end of the shrine. Anywho, we're running on a little bit longer than I was bargaining for today, so I am going to, I think I'm going to be signing off here. If you like what you see, or want to see the end of the Pharaon village and villages and the last of Breath of the Wild shrines, I'd love if you left a like, a subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.